More than 280,000 people in the UK are currently homeless. That's nearly the entire population of a city like Southampton, with nowhere to call home. But here's what's worse. Entire cities are starting to collapse under the weight of poverty and homelessness. Some places look like they've been forgotten entirely. Streets filled with boarded-up shops, emergency shelters overflowing, and kids growing up without stable housing. And it's not just the cities you expect. Some of the names on this list will shock you. So ask yourself this: what's really going on behind the headlines? Why are these cities, once thriving hubs of British life, now sinking into crisis? In today's video, we're revealing the top 10 cities in the UK collapsing the fastest due to the growing poverty and homelessness crisis. We've looked at the latest reports, official stats, and on-the-ground stories to bring you the most eye-opening look yet at the places being left. If you think this can't happen where you live, think again. From rising eviction rates to broken support systems, we're exposing the truth that many would rather ignore. And you won't believe which city tops the list. Stay with us till the end. Because this isn't just about numbers, it's about real people and real lives unraveling right now. Number 10. Blackpool. Once a booming seaside destination known for its bright lights, Blackpool now tells a very different story. It stands as a haunting symbol of how deeply poverty and homelessness can take root when a city is left behind. Blackpool has one of the highest poverty rates in the entire UK. In some areas, more than 50% of children are growing up in poverty. Imagine entire generations facing hunger, poor housing, and limited futures. The promenade that once bustled with tourists, with boarded-up arcades, struggling businesses, and a deep sense of despair hanging in the air. Housing is at the heart of the crisis. Many people live in old, unsafe terraced homes turned into poor-quality rentals. Slum landlords thrive here, exploiting the desperation of vulnerable tenants. The result? Damp, mold-ridden properties and families living in fear of eviction. Emergency housing is overrun, forcing many onto the streets or into temporary shelters with no stability. The town has also been unofficially labelled as a social dumping ground. Health issues, people with addiction problems, or no support are moved here from other regions, without the funding or services needed to help them. Healthcare is crumbling. Blackpool has some of the worst life expectancy rates in the UK. Drug use is widespread. Suicide rates are high. Charities try to fill the gaps, but they're drowning. Volunteers tell stories of children lining up at food banks and schools quietly handing out breakfast because they know kids haven't eaten. Blackpool is not just struggling, it's unraveling. If a place like this can fall so far, what does it say about? And if Blackpool is only number 10, just wait till you see who's next. Number 9. Luton. Luton, a town just outside London, might not be the first place that comes to mind when you think of urban decline. But beneath its busy roads and airport traffic lies a growing humanitarian crisis that few are talking about. In recent years, Luton has seen poverty levels surge, especially among working-class and immigrant communities. Over 45% of children in the town are now living below the poverty line. The cost of living has skyrocketed while wages remain frozen, creating a perfect storm where families are constantly one bill away from disaster. One of the biggest: food insecurity. Demand for food banks has nearly doubled in the past few years. Even people working multiple jobs are queuing up for basic groceries. Teachers say students arrive to school hungry and unable to concentrate. Parents skip meals just to ensure their kids have something to eat. It's not a rough patch, it's a downward spiral. Homelessness is climbing, shelters are packed, and families are being sent to temporary housing miles away, schools, jobs, and support networks. For many, this isolation adds to already mounting stress, especially for refugees and single-parent households. Public services are disappearing. Budget cuts have shut down libraries, youth centres, and community programs. Young people have nowhere to go. Job seekers are stuck without training options. It's a cycle that feeds into itself, trapping generations in hardship. Even the atmosphere has changed. Long-time residents speak of a loss of pride, a fading sense of community, and a quiet anger that no one is listening. And here's the real tragedy. People feel invisible. So what do you think? Have you seen similar issues in your own city? Let's talk about it in the comments below. We want to hear your story. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started. The next city on this list will hit even harder. You won't want to miss what's coming. Number 8. Hull. Hull doesn't scream crisis at first glance. It sits quietly, weathered by time and tide. But behind its calm facade is a city grappling with deep and growing fractures. What's unique about Hull is the silence of its decline. There's no headline drama here, just a slow, grinding deterioration. Wages remain among the lowest in the country. Opportunities? Scarce. For many residents, the idea of moving forward feels like trying to run through mud. There's a haunting kind of stillness in the city centre, empty shop fronts, buildings crumbling at the edges, and people wandering with nowhere to go. It's not unusual to see someone sleeping rough near a shuttered bank, or young people long after schools should have welcomed them in. Housing is a major issue, but in Hull it's more than just a shortage. It's about decay. Many live in dilapidated post-war council estates, homes with leaking roofs, black mold, and faulty heating. Repairs are slow or non-existent, and when winter bites, it bites hard. The cold cuts straight through the bricks. Mental health in Hull is reaching crisis levels. Isolation is common. Substance abuse is rising. Some charities describe the situation as a slow-motion collapse of community support. The systems that used to catch people, healthcare, education, social services, are stretched to the breaking point or already snapped. There's also a kind of generational fatigue. Young people don't just leave. Ask them about the future, and you'll often get a shrug. It's not apathy, it's exhaustion. There's an eerie kind of resilience here. People are used to being ignored. They don't expect help, and maybe that's the most tragic part. The normalization of struggle. When you stop expecting things to get better, you stop asking for change. Hull isn't making noise, but maybe that makes its decline even more devastating. Quiet doesn't mean okay. It just means people. Number 7. Bradford. Bradford is a city of contrasts. Walk its streets and you'll find rich history, striking architecture, and a community that's proud of its cultural diversity. But scratch beneath the surface, and you'll uncover a city caught in a relentless tug-of-war between potential and poverty. This isn't a city without talent. Bradford has one of the youngest populations in Europe. But youth alone isn't enough when the systems that should support them, education, employment, housing, are breaking down. Many graduates leave. Those who stay often face a future with more dead ends than doors. Unemployment remains stubbornly high, especially among young people and ethnic minorities. Opportunities are limited, and discrimination adds another layer of complexity. Ambition fades into frustration. The city has energy, but no clear direction. Housing is another pressure point. Overcrowding is common. Families of 6 or 7 often squeeze into 2-bedroom flats. Social housing waiting lists stretch for years. And private rentals, expensive and often poorly maintained. In some areas, illegal subletting has become a survival tactic. Schools in Bradford are under pressure too. While some perform well, others struggle with underfunding and a lack of resources. Teachers often double as social workers, trying to fill the gaps left by crumbling support systems. Absenteeism is rising. For many students, education feels more like containment than opportunity. There's also a deep-rooted sense of inequality. Walk just a few blocks, and you can move from affluence to hardship in minutes. That closeness, the visible line between privilege and poverty, adds to the frustration. It's not that people don't want better. It's that the odds are stacked so high, they barely see how to begin. Despite it all, the people of Bradford haven't given up. There's resilience here, tough, proud, and unshaken. But resilience without resources can only stretch so far. But it's being tested, hard. The question is how much pressure it can take before the cracks become something more permanent. And remember, there are still 6 cities left on this list. The crisis only deepens from here. Number 6. Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough doesn't try to hide its struggles. The signs are everywhere. Closed factories, decaying high streets, and the silent pain of communities long forgotten. But this isn't just about nostalgia for better days. It's about survival in a place where too many feel written off. The town has one of the highest poverty rates in the UK, entire neighbourhood deprivation that spans generations. It's not unusual to find families where no one has held a steady job in years. Not by choice, but because there are no options. One of the most alarming indicators: life expectancy. In some wards of Middlesbrough, men are expected to live nearly a decade less than the national average. That's not just a statistic. It's a red flag waving right in front of us, telling us something is deeply wrong. Drug addiction is rising, especially among young adults. Mental health crises are increasing, but access to services is minimal. The result? Rooms overloaded with patients who needed help long before things got that bad. Support services are so overstretched, they often can't follow up until it's too late. Housing adds to the weight. Derelict homes line certain streets. Landlords neglect properties, leaving families to deal with leaks, cold, and mold. In some parts of town, entire rows of homes are abandoned, windows smashed, gardens overgrown. It's hard to feel hope when everything around you looks forgotten. Despite all this, Middlesbrough still has fight left in it. Local volunteers run food banks, drop-in centres, and youth clubs out of crumbling buildings. They stretch every resource left. Their efforts are heroic, but they shouldn't have to be. Middlesbrough is tired of promises, of pilot programs, of being a case study in reports that never lead to change. It's not looking for pity, it's demanding attention. Because what's happening here isn't an isolated incident, it's a warning. And we'd be fools to ignore it. Number 5. Stoke-on-Trent. Stoke-on-Trent was once the beating heart of British ceramics. The kilns that dotted the skyline didn't just shape clay, they shaped the identity of the city. But as the pottery industry collapsed, so too did the economic foundation that supported thousands of families. Today, Stoke is a place where it has some of the highest deprivation scores in England, and the consequences are visible in almost every aspect of daily life. Entire estates feel disconnected from progress, places where opportunity has not just dried up, but disappeared. One of the most painful issues facing Stoke is hunger. Food banks here are a lifeline, not a last resort. They've become woven into the weekly routine of thousands. Volunteers say demand has doubled, even tripled in some areas. Families, pensioners, single parents, they're all walking through the same doors, looking for help. And increasingly, those doors are becoming overcrowded. Education is another pressure point. Schools are under-resourced and understaffed. The ambition gap is real. Many students don't believe in better futures because they've rarely seen examples of success around them. Teachers are stretched so thin, they spend more time on crisis management than actual teaching. Housing paints another grim picture. Many residents live in outdated council flats, struggling with heating, mold, and broken fixtures. Some private landlords take advantage of desperate tenants, charging high rent for homes barely. Legal protections exist, but enforcement is almost non-existent. Amidst all of this, mental health is deteriorating. Services are minimal and stigma remains high. People suffer in silence, afraid to ask for help or unsure where to even begin. Isolation is becoming the norm. But despite everything, there's a strong sense of pride in Stoke. Community groups are active. People care. They organize, volunteer, support each other. But community spirit can only go so far without structural support. Stoke-on-Trent isn't just facing hard times, it's bracing against collapse. And unless something changes, the cracks. Number 4. Liverpool. Liverpool carries the weight of its past and the struggle of its present. This is a city that has always fought hard, against decline, against stereotype, against the odds. But right now, that fight is getting harder by the day. The cost of living crisis has hit Liverpool brutally. Thousands of households are now on the brink. Food insecurity, fuel poverty, and evictions have become daily concerns rather than exceptions. In some parts of the city, it's not uncommon for families without heating, bundled up in coats indoors just to survive. Youth homelessness is rising. More and more young people are being forced out of homes due to overcrowding, abuse, or financial stress. They bounce between sofas, hostels, and the streets, some never finding safety for long. Schools and social workers are overwhelmed trying to help, but the scale is beyond what they can handle alone. Charities across Liverpool report a staggering increase in demand. Community centres double as food banks and crisis hubs. Volunteers often spend their own money to keep services running. And when asked what's changed, many say the same thing. We're seeing people we've never seen before. It's everyone now. Mental health services. Waiting lists stretch for months. People in urgent need are left to cope alone. Add in the trauma of poverty, and it's easy to see why breakdowns are becoming more common. Entire families are silently struggling, caught in a system too slow to catch them. But perhaps what's most striking is the resilience. Liverpool doesn't give up. There's a fire in this city, fueled by pride, community, and a refusal to stay down. It's visible in every grassroots initiative, every fundraiser, every local who steps up when the system fails. Still, even the strongest cities can't stand forever without real support. And right now, Liverpool is carrying more than it can bear. Number 3. Birmingham. Birmingham is one of the UK's largest cities, a place known for and industrial history. But right now, it's making headlines for all the wrong reasons. Because its own council declared financial collapse. The effects of that collapse are being felt everywhere. Services once considered essential have been scaled back or disappeared entirely. Waste collection, public housing repairs, youth programs, all cut to the bone. It's not just bureaucratic failure, it's a shockwave that's rippling through everyday life. Rents have soared, homelessness is up. Families are being pushed into emergency housing or crammed into unsuitable spaces with no idea how long they'll stay. For many, it feels like the safety net is full of holes and getting wider. Birmingham's children are particularly vulnerable. Child services are overwhelmed. Teachers and social workers are sounding alarms that they can't protect every kid who needs help. And with fewer after-school programs or community resources, more young people are falling through the cracks. Mental health issues are growing, but support is harder to access. It's not uncommon to wait months for counseling or treatment. By then, small problems have often become full-blown crises. Entire families are stuck in cycles of stress and breakdown. Even in neighborhoods that were once strain are obvious. Closed shops, rising antisocial behavior, a sense that stability is slipping away. Businesses are leaving. Community events have dried up. The city feels quieter, but not in a peaceful way, in a worried, waiting kind of silence. But perhaps the most jarring aspect is this. Birmingham was supposed to be too big to fail. A city of this scale, with this much influence, now buckling under economic strain. If it can happen here, where else might be next? What Birmingham is going through isn't just a local issue. It's a warning siren for cities across the country. The system isn't just strained, it's breaking. And Birmingham is where the cracks are impossible to ignore. Number 2. Manchester. Manchester is often seen as a success story, a vibrant city with culture, music, and tech startups on the rise. But there's another Manchester, the one hidden in plain sight, where inequality is sharper than ever and homelessness has reached crisis levels. Rough sleeping has surged in recent years, once bustling with nightlife and energy, now shares space with growing tent encampments. People with nowhere else to go are building communities on the pavements, under bridges, in parks. These are not isolated incidents, they are visible symptoms of a deeper breakdown. Affordable housing is vanishing, rents are rising fast, driven by gentrification and unchecked development. For every luxury apartment complex that opens, more low-income families are pushed out, unable to compete. The waiting list for social housing has ballooned. Emergency shelters are packed. Some people wait months. Manchester's support systems are stretched. Outreach teams are working around the clock, but the volume is overwhelming. Mental health services are under immense pressure. Addiction support is scarce. Even basic needs, like a hot meal or a clean bed, are becoming luxuries, and the cost of survival is rising. Food bank usage is exploding. Parents are skipping meals. Schools are quietly feeding children who come in hungry. Teachers buy supplies out of their own pockets just to give kids a fighting chance. The quiet sacrifices people make every day are staggering. The frustration here is palpable. People feel like they're watching their city grow, but not for them. They see cranes in the sky and glass buildings going up, but none of it makes life any easier. Manchester is still proud, still strong, but its shadow side is growing harder to ignore. This is what a thriving city looks like in 2025. It's time to ask, who is it thriving for? Because for too many, the answer is, not us. Number 1. London. At the top of the list, it's London. Not because it's forgotten, but because its crisis is happening in full view of the nation, with eyes wide open. London is a city of extremes. On one end, you have luxury high-rises, Michelin-starred restaurants, and billion-pound tech startups. On the other, over 10,000 families living in temporary accommodation. More than 150,000 people are officially homeless in the capital. And these aren't just statistics, they're families and children growing up without a proper home. Entire generations living in limbo. Rents are out of control. The average cost of a one-bedroom flat has become unattainable for anyone on a modest salary. Even full-time workers are turning to food banks. Teachers, nurses, and shop workers are being priced out of the city they serve. For many, London is becoming a place they can no longer afford to live, or even survive. Rough sleeping is more visible than ever. Tube stations, underpasses, and doorways have become homes. For some, the streets feel safer than shelters, because even the shelters. Reports of abuse, lack of space, and impossible rules drive people back outside, despite the dangers. Mental health resources are buckling under demand. Drug use is rising. Desperation is turning quiet suffering into public breakdowns. And yet, the city keeps building. More penthouses, more luxury flats that sit empty. Entire blocks bought as investments, while families wait years for affordable housing that never comes. Community efforts are valiant but insufficient. Pop-up kitchens feed hundreds. Volunteer clinics offer care. But the root causes, policy neglect, economic inequality, go unaddressed. London is collapsing in plain sight. Its streets tell a story of wealth and ruin, side by side, of what happens when a society builds higher and higher, but forgets the people at the base. This isn't just a crisis, it's a contradiction. And until it's confronted directly, the capital of the UK will remain its most broken city. This list wasn't easy to ignore. If your city's story wasn't told here, tell us in the comments. Your voice matters. We pour everything into creating these videos, so if this moved you, support us by subscribing. It's just one yet, go watch our previous video. It's the story they don't want you to hear.